love for sure. If you're in love, let me hear you say I love me. Say I love me, I love me. Remember there was only one me. What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Selflish Podcast. I am your host, Luke Wynn, with my very lovely co-host,
Dayana Wynn.
This is the podcast that's all about showing self-love and self-care, all while extending similar virtues towards others. And we are excited to be here. How do you feel?
I'm excited to be back.
Right? We took a week off, but here we are, you guys. And we have an amazing topic for you guys today.
We do. We're so excited. This is probably, I don't know if it's going to be my favorite, but I think it's going to be my favorite.
It will hopefully be our favorite.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we come up with these themes and stuff like that, on paper things look good, but who knows how we're going to execute it.
I know. I hope you guys really get the message and really feel what we're trying to tell you and understand what we're trying to tell you.
Exactly. But before we get there, you guys know we got to do our updates and all that other podcast stuff. Mm-hmm. So, firstly, we have the deal of the week, the selfless deal of the week. Do you want to say what it is?
You can go ahead.
Okay, the selfless deal of the week. We're having a back to school sale. That's what we're going to call it this week. And it's the t-shirts, right? Because last week we did tank tops. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be the I Love Me t-shirts.
Yes, and honestly, guys, I don't know why I feel like not a lot of people are like onto the t-shirts with the hands. The hand thing, but honestly, you guys, they're so cool. Maybe they just look cooler in person, or I don't know what's going on, you guys. Come on. Different shades of hands. We got the different polish for all of you girls who like the different. Red is my favorite. But how dope is this one, though? The colors are just so cool. And once again,
it might not match my arm, but it matches. Just get away.
And once again, like whenever we wear it, it gets a lot of attention. And it's such a good conversation starter. You can have really good conversations. Just talk about self-love, self-care, just loving others.
Yes.
Which is really cool. Come on, guys.
So, and everybody who's been supporting, we appreciate you guys so much.
Yes, we thank you guys so much.
You guys are super awesome. Okay, now our next part. We are horrible with our transitions. Okay, so Biden got a running mate.
What does that mean?
A vice president. If he wins, he has a vice president.
Yeah, I was going to say, why does it matter?
Because,
he's not winning.
It's just a little bit of updates, okay?
Just kidding.
We are not going to talk about our political views for obvious reasons. Well, her political views. You guys know where I stand. I don't do politics.
Yes,
at all,
does.
because none of it matters. I'm not voting for the
president this year. Whatever. There's days when he'll be like, yeah, like he thinks he knows he's gonna, who he's gonna vote for, and then all of a sudden someone says something and he's like, you know what? Never mind. It depends.
I hate when she acts like my voice, because it sounds like all the other losers who have been in her life. So she always does. She has one voice for any man, any.
Yeah, that's right.
Bro, come on. What's going on, bro?
I'm just trying to make my voice deeper.
Yeah, but you have one voice, and I'm like, okay, she's talking about this person, or like, it's very frustrating. And I don't sound like that.
I know nobody sounds like that, but that's just
in
my
my mind,
voice.
all those guys, they sound like that. That's exactly how they sound. So, anyways, yeah.
Anyways,
I'm just woke enough to know that, I don't know, the politics they're feeding us is all malarkey. But enough about politics. Enough about politics.
You can't just throw a rock and hide your hand behind your back. Come on, say it again.
I said I know that everything that politics are feeding us is malarkey.
Oh, yeah. CNN is horrible.
She's a Trump supporter, you guys.
I never said that.
And she has biblical reasons for it, but we're not going to get into that.
No, I didn't. I never said that.
Anyhow, the next part we want to talk about is, Nipsey Hussle's birthday just passed.
Happy birthday, Nipsey.
Happy Nipsey. Rest in peace, man.
Yes, rest in peace.
Man. Moment of silence. I think it's crazy how, I love these platforms like social media, music, media, because you can make such a difference and you can impact people in a crazy way that you would have never thought,
Yeah.
I just think that's really interesting, because Nipsey, there's no way I ever would have crossed paths with him in my life, but just hearing his music and stuff, it makes you just understand who he was, and It's just crazy. I don't want to get too deep into that either because then you'll just be lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not hip to nip. Okay, what's the next thing? Anything? What else do we want to like update people on? How are you doing?
I am doing really good. I've actually been having a lot of fun. We were in Arizona for a whole week, guys. That's why we didn't do last week's podcast. And I had a really good time. Visiting new places is always fun. Trying new restaurants and just it's always fun, and hanging out with my husband and my family is just amazing. So I have been having so much fun, and I'm really enjoying being your wife and staying at home with the kids.
Honestly, I'm so happy that you've been having so much fun because I remember when we were dating, anytime she did anything, I would ask her if she had fun, and she'd be like, I don't know. So I was like, really? I'm like, what is fun to you? How do you not enjoy anything that you do? And she's like, fun is laughing and having a good time. It's like, it didn't matter what she did. She never had fun. So I'm glad she's having fun now. Round of applause.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Which is really good because I was thinking about that. It's such a perfect way to start our topic, actually, because I was thinking about that. Our topic. Do you want to say the name?
We're not going to talk about the topic yet because we have to get into our game.
Oh, okay. But yeah, anyways, I was just letting you know. I'll come back to that because
we'll play a really quick game of air tacto.
No, what about the cards?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, guess what, you guys? So you remember that game that we played called The And
Game?
They saw our podcast and they pretty much they didn't sponsor us. They gave us like a discount, but they're going to use our video in a commercial. Yes! Okay, so everything that we're doing, it's really encouraging because we know that people are listening and people are watching. Yeah. And she really liked it. So I can't wait to see that commercial. When we get it, you get it.
Yep. I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious.
You guys know celebrities now.
Oh, Lord.
So,
just gonna let it
but
be.
don't worry. As long as you guys support us, support the brand, support the mission, we got your support too. You got our support. Anyways, a quick game of air tactile, then we can get back to what you were saying. Okay. So, here's the lines. So you see the screen?
Really, baby? Is that really air tactile?
Air tactile. Oh, wait. Hold on. Okay. Go.
I'll be the X.
Are you in the middle?
I'm in the middle.
I just went there.
No, I
went there.
Was it the middle?
No, why would I go in the middle? I'm blocking you.
I'm confused. I don't like this game. Your X is right here and right here. My O's are right here, listen. Right okay, my ex. This is a horrible idea.
No, that's because you're a cheater.
No, I'm not. Yes, okay, look. I made an X in the middle, and then I made an X on the side, in the middle, on the side.
Okay, so you just won then.
No, that was only my second time.
Okay, and then I just did a circle on the bottom.
Middle?
No, on the bottom corner.
Okay, I thought you did it in the bottom middle. You didn't go that far. You didn't do it.
No, I did it on the bottom corner. But it doesn't matter because your X is right here, so you win.
No, it doesn't because...
Okay, we're going to play a different game because... Okay. Guess what number I'm thinking of? Between 1 and 15.
10.
You lost. I win the game.
Okay. Game's over.
Okay. Then that's our game for today. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, selflies and gents. Okay, baby, you want to tell them about our topic?
Okay, yes. So our topic is joy versus happiness. And I think it's just such a good topic because I know that a lot of people don't think about this, especially even people like in church that hear talks and preachings about joy all the time. We don't realize that in the Bible, they never used the word, God never used the word happiness. It was always a joy. It was always joy. If you think about the different joy, there's different types of joys that the Bible talks about. But it was always joy. It was never happiness. It's just so interesting how we happen to just want to be pursuing happiness. Like, that's what we want. Yeah. And so much more than that, which is probably like it would answer your question as to how come you can't just be happy, because there's no such thing, I think, as actually being. It's not like a real thing, I think.
Yeah, and I think especially like what we've been like looking at and stuff, it seems like happiness is literally just, it's an attribute of joy, but it's not the full thing, you know? It's like,
Yeah, that's better.
that's like wanting to, that's like me falling in love with a picture of you versus actually who you are, you know?
Well, that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah, because it's like, it's so surface level, and I think a lot of people are miserable because they're searching for something to make them happy, and they miss certain things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They miss like the fundamental things that come with joy, you know, which is a lot. So we're gonna, okay, so first let's get into, okay, how would you define joy?
I'm really bad at this stuff, but I would just put it, just joy is kind of like being assured and feeling and just knowing that you know that you are taken care of and that you don't have to worry about it because you're taken care of pretty much in any way.
Yeah. And how would you define happy?
Happy is just kind of, to me, okay, now that I know the differences, like, and I know, and I just see it so much, to me happiness is just like skin deep. It's just like, happiness is just like a moment. Yeah. It can just happen, like,
it's like just a reaction, right?
Yeah, kind of like a reaction, like, oh yeah, I was happy when I went to the movies because I was laughing a lot. Mm-hmm. And then that's it. And it goes as far as that, because you can come out, something can happen, and then you can be miserable and forget about whatever happiness you had inside that movie theater or whatever.
Yeah, that's the let me see. I'll read what this actual. I found a really good definition for joy. It says, joy is a state of mind and an orientation of the heart. It's a settled state. It's a settled state of contentment, confidence, and hope. And happy, it hails from the Middle English word hap, meaning good luck. Many of the early European words for happy actually refer to good luck rather than a feeling of joy. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really interesting, like those two differences, because like, so when I think of like good luck and happiness, it's almost like you were lucky enough to experience an opportunity. You were lucky enough to experience this moment that caused you great happiness, you know? But the thing that happens nowadays is the fact that those moments are so far and few. So it's like, if you live for a moment of happiness, you end up, it's kind of like being an addict. You go from one high to the next high, and you're constantly in search for the next one, you know? Mm-hmm. Where joy is like, it's not necessarily a reaction to something else happening, but it's actually something that's rooted deep inside you. So that feeling of being content, having hope, having confidence in something, having like, obviously having happiness about, like I said, happiness is an attribute of joy, but being happy despite of the situation, despite your circumstance, it's like this, it's solid, you know, and it's like a really firm foundation.
It is. I definitely agree.
Yeah, and I think, for me, I think my favorite, well, I would say like one way that I can think of like just being joyful, and I'm going to ask you this too, is think of a time when you were going through a really messed up circumstance or situation, and even during that situation, it was like a really messed up time in your life, but you weren't like in a depression. You still managed to have like something in you that kept you hopeful.
And like peace, right?
Continue to give you peace.
Mm-hmm.
Like think of a moment like that, and I'll share mine. I think when I look back on everything that happened like this past year, with like even though there were moments when we were stressing about like the rent, or we were stressing about our landlord, or all that stuff, like it seemed like there was so much going on. It seemed like you know, because I didn't have my job, you got pregnant, you were feeling sick. It seemed like there was so much stuff going on, but when I reflect on it, there was never a moment when I was just like completely depressed and at a loss and just completely out of hope. You know, like I look back at that stuff and I can smile and like remember like the good times that happened, you know, because it's like despite what we were going through, like, you know, when we got the $2,000 from somebody randomly dropped that to us. From when, you know, just seeing Ellie grow, and like even that situation we were going with him, it's like we always seem to be rooted in like this feeling of joy in our house, to the point where it's like, even though things would come and there were outside things that would cause us to not be happy, or that would cause us like misery, or that would try to cause us to be sad or get into a funk, we were like super level headed. So when things were really great, we were joyful, and when things were really bad, we were still just as joyful. And it's like, the one thing that I love being married to you is because, I don't want to compare the last marriage, but like our situations that we go through outside does not affect our intimacy. You know, like we don't go through a problem to the point where I'm laying in bed next to you at night and you're just upset at me, and you're just completely miserable because something didn't work out. But our intimacy is consistent, our love is consistent, and I think that just shows the joy that we have rooted in our house, you know, and in our home. What do you think? Like, what's a situation you can think of?
You kind of like stole it right out of my mouth. I was literally thinking about the same thing, and I was actually thinking about how, while you were talking about that, I was also just reflecting and thinking about how when you have joy. Okay, I don't want to go off topic. I'm sorry. I'll say that later. But so pretty much the same thing as you. I can think about, there's, like you said, there's times when we did come to agreement in a lot of things, petty things. You know, we were upset or whatever.
Disagreement or an agreement?
We didn't come to agreement on a lot of things. I said. Does that make sense?
No, you didn't say didn't. You said
yes, I did.
To an agreement. Go on though.
Okay, I'm sorry if I did it. So, anyways, so we didn't come to an agreement, and but yeah, it was never like heartbreaking. It was never like, oh my gosh, like what am I gonna do? Like you said, like where you fall into this depression, where you start feeling like, oh no, like regretting things, you know, because I've definitely been in that situation where all of a sudden you're like, shoot, did I make the right decision? Whatever. It's just crazy how you don't even go there. Like you don't even go there because you have this joy. Because you have this joy of like, as bad as this argument was, or as bad as our situation was, or whatever, I know that we're going to be okay. Yeah. It's just like this feeling that you can't even help it. Yeah. It's so much peace, a feeling of peace, and just, you're going to be okay. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, and that's what I think, like when it comes to like happiness, about how like if you're chasing just a feeling of happiness, we're thinking that once one thing happens, then you'll be happy. It's almost like you're. Man, I just lost what I was saying. It's almost like you're neglecting everything that's right in front of you, you know, because you want something else. Yeah. And it's like that pursuit is. It's a really sad pursuit because. That's so true. Because you miss out on so much life and so much beauty that's in between, you know.
Yeah, because that's so true. Because to you. Maybe your happiness is of this person that you're chasing, but there's so much joy around you with other people you can have, but you miss out on it. That's so good because you're just your happiness is that one thing. Yeah. And you like don't care about anything else.
Yeah, like that's it's crazy. All predicated on that one thing.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's so true.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I think I was gonna say it. So a lot of times, and this going back to the marriage thing, a lot of times and I hate to keep bringing up the comparison, but in my last relationship, there was this feeling of, I'll be happy when this happens. You know, I'll feel better when this happens. I'll be at peace when this happens. And so many people have that mentality of, I'm going to choose to be in this funk, and I'm going to choose to be stubborn and choose to have a hard heart until A, B, C, and D happen. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing that, you're ruining your own relationships, and you're causing your own self-misery, because if you really appreciate the fact that you can wake up, open your eyes, you can breathe in the fresh air, and you can live your life, that should give you so much peace in knowing that everything's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that joy that you have, it supersedes that feeling of waiting for something to happen, because you're just in the moment, and you know that things are going to get better, but you're not in a rush to try to make it happen. You know, like you know that this isn't the end, so you have peace going through the storm. You know, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I want you to think about a time when you were going through, like a time when you were like younger, where you were like kind of miserable because you were waiting for something to happen.
When I was younger,
Yeah.
my whole life as a teenager, I was just that's what I was gonna say earlier. That it's really interesting how I can see the huge difference. It's like night and day between when I was chasing happiness versus joy. I really can. And I was just thinking about how looking back throughout all my teenage years, I was just like, I just want to be happy. I remember clearly just crying and be like, I just want to be happy and like stuff like that. I'm sure all girls have said that. And thinking back, most of the memories that I have, and this is really sad, but most of the memories that I have when I was like younger, not even a teenager, maybe even before I had Ellie, most of my memories are negative. They really are. The things that stand out to me are mainly negative things because I was constantly seeing all the negatives and waiting for my happy moments to come. And they were only here and there, and that they weren't filling me up. They weren't making me happy. And it's just crazy how I can mainly just remember negative things. And those are the things that stuck to me. Versus, and I don't want to say, and I'm not by any means saying that you are like, oh, it was because of you or whatever. Because you just it just happened to just be at the same time, around the same time that I met you, that I felt like God was really working with me and he was working with giving me joy, which is what I was searching for. And it's crazy because now I enjoy things so much more. Now the fact that you would be like, before I would ask you and you'd be like, did you have fun? And you'd be like, I think that had so much to do with it. That I was still transitioning from me wanting to me happy meant laughing. But see how wrong that was?
Yeah.
Because I was like, no, like I didn't laugh, so I wasn't really that happy, like, because I wasn't laughing. Nobody was, and I was like, when I would answer you that, I would be like, that sounds kind of, there's something wrong in that, but I guess that's what I'm gonna say, But now thinking about it now, like when we have experiences and stuff like that, now I just enjoy them so much more because just who I am has so much peace and joy. Because I'm content now. I'm satisfied. So even if the trip in Arizona, like a lot of things went wrong, I'm still going to feel good. And I'm still going to remember and be like, that was really fun. It's just crazy. Like the difference is just amazing.
Yeah.
So.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just really, really interesting. It's such a good feeling.
What caused you to like... Okay. Go. I'm trying to get like a straight face. Why do you think that? This is what happens when we're interrupted by children. Luckily, like we're married and everything because whatever, we have all night. Okay. Why do you think that you were unhappy all those years? I'll probably just use the last take. Go on.
Okay, why?
Yeah, why were you unhappy like growing up?
Okay, so I definitely think that I was unhappy because I just didn't feel loved. I really didn't. And I don't think I even realized that. It's like weird because when you're a kid, you don't know how to put it into words, or you don't really know how to like know what you're feeling. But I know it was like I just felt like neglected emotionally by my parents. And I think it was because of my parents got a divorce. And I didn't understand why, but I was old enough to know that they were splitting up. So it was like everything fell apart and I didn't even know why. And then all of a sudden, my parents are fighting physically because my mom came to take us out of my dad's house because he was gonna like take us somewhere else. So my mom couldn't find it. It was just a mess. And then we got split up. We came to the U.S. He stayed in Mexico, and he never cared to look for us. He never. I didn't have a father. My mom got married again, but it's like even that was just not the same because and I'm not trying to like say anything negative about my stepdad, who is my dad. That's my dad. But he also had a lot of issues. So he was not a good dad, and he was not present at all, you know? And my mom had to work, and so she was never available for me. I just felt like I grew up without parents, even though, yeah, they were there, but they were never really there, ever, physically or emotionally, because they were always working. My mom would work from like 6 in the morning, and she wouldn't come home till like 12 or 1 o'clock at night. My homework throughout, I cannot remember. I can probably remember like once or twice or 3 times throughout my whole life that my mom probably checked my homework. They never checked my homework. They never asked me. They never checked. They never cared to ever go to they never really went to parent-teacher conferences. Yeah. They never, so it's like, eventually that speaks to a child, you know? And I think you are constantly, eventually you form this idea of what happiness should be, because you haven't been happy, but you don't know how to put it into words, or you don't really know what a happiness is. So then I would watch telenovelas, which I highly recommend you not letting your kids watch them, because they're full of baloney. Like, they paint this image of like pretty much like how a man should come and rescue you. And a lot of Hollywood movies do too. Just like, that's what they make like it
all
seem.
Cartoons, all fairy tales,
yeah. And then so not having a dad, and then all of a sudden I'm fed this stuff. All of a sudden, like, it's gonna translate into I need someone to make me happy, and I spent my whole life pursuing that, moments of happiness with a partner, with the boyfriend, because that's what happiness meant. But I think it led to disappointment after disappointment after disappointment, and heartbreaks. And I know I hurt a lot of people, a lot of good people, because I would meet these guys. I felt like, oh, this is what I want. This is what I want. And then when I would be there, I would just come to find out that it wasn't what I was looking for. And I couldn't understand why. And I remember crying, thinking that I would never be happy and my mom, they just couldn't understand me. And they'd be like, why? What's wrong? I'd be like, I'm just never going to find happiness. But it's because even though there was guys that I liked, I could never like really fully love them. It was really weird. And I didn't understand why. But it wasn't even that. I was just searching for joy, love, like true joy, not just a happy moment. Yeah. But I was confusing it with happiness.
Yeah. I think it's super interesting that you equated love with happiness, like they were like intertwined, you know? So your pursuit of love was actually your pursuit of happiness. And I think a lot of young people, they do pursue relationships because they do equate that with happiness. But what joy really is being content, whether you're in a relationship or whether you're single. You know, you still have hope, and you have that assurance that I might be single right now, but I can focus on me, and then 3 years from now, 5 years from now, maybe I can get into a relationship, start something serious, and then, you know, start a family. But I think it's so interesting because, like, just what we're fed growing up, pop culture, TV, Disney, everything is all about relationships. Everything is all about, Cinderella is literally in the dungeon until she meets some guy who takes her to the kingdom. Rapunzel is literally in this attic till she meets some guy who climbs up her hair and then saves her, you know? We have all these things. Sleeping Beauty is asleep, but a guy has to kiss her. And it's like, it's
in telenovelas, the girl's always like poor, and then the guy, you know, and then she meets like this rich, handsome guy. She's always poor. She's always like in a miserable place.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate that's what especially young women are fed, because I think that reality is much more of a hopeful thing. It literally does provide you hope. Your hope literally rests in what you see in these TV shows, what you see in these movies, you know. And I think because of the fact that you were at a vulnerable position with your family, it caused that to be that much more bigger, you know. And I just never thought about it that way, because in my mind, like, the whole time that my family, we always were going through. We were always going through something. Like, life was like never perfect. But I can remember, like, my mom and dad kind of like, despite those moments, there was always this contentment in the house that we had. my dad never made it to where we were chasing something. Like he was doing one thing, and if it didn't work out, here goes the next thing. And if that didn't work out, here's the next thing. But I think because that maybe I had both my parents and we had a really tight-knit unit, like, and maybe I'm just an oblivious person too. So it's like, we're like sleeping in the church, we're like, oh, drums are right there, like, I remember one time we were sleeping in the church, I'm like producing tracks, I'm like, I see the circumstance. And I think when I was 16, when I was in that drum competition, like I saw the circumstance that my family was in, and like I was hoping that me winning the drum contest would provide us like with the means to get out, And I remember that I was like depressed for that one moment. And then I had a conversation with my dad about how I let the family down. And my dad said like it wasn't even my job to try to take us out of that circumstance. So I shouldn't be depressed and sad because it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. So it was like just that one conversation is like helped me to where I wasn't depressed and feeling even worse. Like obviously it sucked to lose, it sucked to let your family down. But at the same time, my dad gave me contentment in knowing, hey, that was none of my business anyway. Like I'm 16 years old. He's the one who has to take care of the family, And I think I'm really grateful just for our upbringing, but like I do find myself sometimes, like I find myself sometimes getting to that point where it's like, okay, when is something gonna happen? When's the big break gonna happen? When are things gonna just work out? But it might be like a week that I'm kind of like, or it might be like 48 hours that I'm like kind of like down, but I'm never like down completely, to where I'm just miserable, because I realize like I have a family, I have kids, like even if nothing ever happens the way I want it to happen, everything that's happening right now is I'm still in a blessed position,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I know that a lot of things that we go through in life, like we set goals, and a lot of times like our society makes us to where we are in like this search for happiness. But I think the opposite of like the search for happiness would be like joy is not a search, it's actually a revelation of contentment that you should already have in your life. And I think when, like what you were just not saying, I think when we finally like, because obviously our relationship hasn't been easy, and obviously it hasn't been like just this, like lovey-dovey like thing. Like there was a lot of you being in your head about this relationship. You were very nervous. You were very scared, very fearful to even get back into a relationship. No, get married again, because of your past. But I think the joy that you got was actually a revelation of that assurance that everything's all right. Like what were you even, like why were you even freaking out so hard? Why were you like so fearful of taking a leap of faith? Like why were you like, like you're trying to sabotage certain things, but literally like once you took a step back and you did have that revelation of just being content in where you are, you realize that it's easier to be content. And obviously we had already been through a long journey, you really didn't have anything that you were afraid of literally was all completely in your head.
Yeah.
Because everything that we had gone through had already proved that things weren't going to be just horrible. Like there wasn't going to be some weird flip that switched that flip. But I think, when you got that revelation of joy, that's why you're able to, here we are like a year and a half later, you are at a different place in your life. What do you think? Do you think that you did feel like, do you think that there was a moment where you did really feel like there was like this revelation of like, oh my gosh, everything feels really good?
Yeah, it wasn't like a moment. It was just like, I feel like God like walked me to that point. But it was like, looking back, I was like, I saw where it started.
And where do you think it started? Like, where do you think that you really felt the most like contentment and everything?
Once we got married, like that's when I realized like, oh my gosh, like looking back, like everything, God was like showing me that everything was gonna be fine. Like I was in my head the whole time, like just like what you were saying. And through you talking to me, like he was trying to tell me like through different things. I just looking back, I was like, he was trying to show me like everything's gonna be fine. Like why was I so scared? And I think it was because I was just in my head.
I think you were scared too, because I think you had a belief in your head that you were just never gonna find happiness.
Yes,
So
that's
because
true.
of that feeling of that hopelessness, which is
That's true.
which
That's
is what
true.
you have when you're not happy, everything else was just a fantasy. It was a mirage. You were extremely jaded. I think it was just to the point where it's just like, yeah, like
Okay, that
you
makes
weren't
so
gonna be
much
happy.
sense because now that you think that now that you're saying that, that is so true. Because I was so like I didn't hopeless about marriage. Like that's how I felt. When I found you, the way that we were in a relationship was perfect, and I wanted to keep it that way because that was my happiness. Like that, the way you were treating me, the fact that our relationship was so amazing when we were dating. Everything was so, like the way you treated me. Just I was like I was in disbelief. Like I was like, he's so amazing. He's like too good to be true. So to me, marriage, I really, I have told you before, I felt like marriage equaled misery. And anybody who would try to tell me otherwise, I felt that I was like, they're lying. Anybody who would say, oh, I'm happy, to me was like, they're just saying that because they don't want to actually say how they feel to not make the other person feel bad. Like that's in my head, 100%. I felt like people just lied about being happy once they were married. So that was my truth. Therefore, getting married meant I was going to come to face my truth of that I'm not really happy. Like that happy moment was gone. That's what it was going to mean being married, which is really sad. And then thank God you are just like a person of so much faith, and you pushed and pushed like, no, we're going to get married. We're going to get married. Like it's because I was like, no, wait, let's wait till this. Okay, fine. Like, you know, I was just really scared. And then the fact that you were like, no, you just were like, no, we're really persistent because you knew. I feel like you knew what was going on. So you were kind of like not going to let my feelings get in the way of of the blessings that were going to come, and how I was just so scared. It's kind of like one of those things where you're like afraid to jump, and then you were just like, come on, it's not that bad, jump, and you just pull. Kind of that's what I felt like you had to do, and I felt like it was necessary because as soon as we got married, I started just feeling like the peace, and I was like, I remember like just being still and quiet, and I'd be like, oh my God, like I don't hear chaos in my head. I don't hear chaos. My emotions are not all over the place. I think I'm good. Oh my gosh, marriage is fine. I swear. It was so weird. And it was amazing how God all of a sudden just was like, hey, this is what I was trying to show you, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sad though, you know, how like because you took your own personal experience of what marriage was, but then also like examples that you saw, you know, and that's really had an impact on you. And I think when it comes to happiness and joy, we look to the outside for like an example of what it is. You know, like, oh, look at that person. He's rich. He's happy. He must be happy because he has money. Or look at her. She must be happy because she's married. Or look at them. She must be happy because of this. And a lot of times, because we're so busy like critiquing, judging, and reviewing everyone else's lives, we miss out on finding the joy that is in our life that we have, you know? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, honestly, there's some people who are in jail right now. And they are some of the most joyful people you will ever meet. Are content, super happy, like they're super content and joyful, and they're almost excited just waking up in the morning. They're in jail, they're going to prison, but they still have like this joy of contentment in their lives. And a lot of people, we miss that. Like, we're free, but we're so busy looking at everybody else, or we're looking at all the negativity, or we're looking at all these different things, and we're missing out on the lives that we live. It's literally a choice to be happy or to be joyful. Like, you can choose to be content in your situation. You don't have to make it to where you're after this. As soon as this happens, then I'm going to be happy, or you don't have to say I'm going to be unhappy because in this. If I do that, I'm going to be unhappy because this person did that and they're unhappy. You know, like we look at these bad examples and we say, okay, if we do what they did, we're probably going to be unhappy too. And I think we just have to really like look within ourselves and realize that we can have joy, because I love that joy has so much attached to it. Peace, love, happiness, all of it is all in one, you know? Like with that contentment that you get, It's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, a lot of times you see people who, not even see other people. A lot of times I've been in situations where I've been through messed up situations, but we were still laughing. I wasn't angry. I wasn't upset at the world. I didn't go through this 3-year phase of hating God or, hating my family. It's like, every moment of my life, I can literally look back and be like, that sucked, but those were the days. Like even my divorce, it's just like, in hindsight, I enjoyed like the 6 months before I met you. Like I don't know why, but I think just my upbringing, just my personality, like, and just what God has given me, just that joy that I've just had in my entire life. It's really, I'm able to look back on so many different things, laugh about certain things, but realize like there's nothing in my life where it's like if I reflect on it, I'm still like messed up about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think joy is just, it's amazing. There's something else I want to talk about.
And I think while you look for that your joy can, like, kind of my happiness was a relationship and kids or whatever. That's what I was looking for. Someone to save me. And for other people, it could be careers.
Yeah.
It can be there's so many different types of happiness that you look for. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the crazy part is, if you can have joy being homeless, when you do make it to the top, you're gonna have that much of a firm foundation. You're not gonna get to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, what's next? You're not gonna be scrambling. You're gonna be able to settle and be content and like just bask in the fact that you made it. Like you set out all these goals. You enjoyed the whole journey, and you were joyful in those moments. And then when you get to where you want to be, there's still a feeling of joy and contentment, and it's not this feeling of like emptiness waiting for the next one. It's I feel sorry for some people who are like addicted to like substance, because that's literally what it is. It's this eternal chase for like a high, or an intoxication. And Will Smith's sister said in this interview with on the Red Table Talk that after her dad died, I think her dad or her mom, I think it was her dad who died, she said that like every day she wakes up and she's like, I'm not gonna get him back. And that fueled her addiction to marijuana, because she just wants to be high all the time to escape that idea of not being able to replace that void, And a lot of times that's where we get, where it's just like we have this void and we are empty, so we chase after a happiness or after something that's going to hopefully make us happy or hopefully pull us out of this pit that we're in. Okay, so growing up in church, there was like this one song that everybody was singing and the whole church was shouting, called "The Joy of the Lord is My Strength." Like, the joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Yada, yada, yada. I only like playing that song because on the drums, like, you can do a lot of like fun stuff to it. I never really got what that meant. It was never even explained. So in your own words, what do you think like the joy of the Lord is? Like, what do you think the joy of the Lord being your strength actually means?
Okay, so I think, the joy of the Lord as my strength is actually a scripture, just for those people who don't know. But I was looking for those of you guys who know who Paul is. We all know who Paul is. All of us church people. He is a person who pretty much had an encounter with Christ, and then he became a believer, and he was a great disciple pretty much, and he took the gospel everywhere, and he wrote a lot of the letters in the Bible that we have now, and they're really amazing letters. And he was also a person who used to persecute Christians, and because of their faith, and then eventually he was the one being persecuted, and he was put in jail. And one of one of the letters that he wrote in Philippians 4, this is while he was in prison, but he was like in house arrest. It's pretty much like house arrest, and he didn't know whether he was going to live or die. He didn't really know what was going on. But if you guys read his letters, he he really talks about like joy in this letter. Like, I guess like people who have studied the Bible, they pretty much call this letter like the letter of joy. Without, it doesn't really have to say joy, but we can see that that's kind of what it was. And I feel like this is a good example. In Philippians 4, he says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus." And so it's pretty much saying, like, I like how he says, do not be anxious, because it kind of gives like an explanation of kind of like, do not be anxious. Like, that's kind of like what having joy, like the opposite of not having joy. Does that make sense? The opposite of. So sorry, the opposite of joy would be like you're constantly anxious about things and you know, all these things. So right here saying do not be anxious, but see, like, this is a person who doesn't know whether he's going to live or die, but he's telling everyone else, don't be anxious, but in everything be like, give thanksgiving and just present your requests to the Lord. Like, he seems like he has so much peace, right? And then he just goes on saying about how, and this is such a popular thing, he goes, I'm sorry.
That's so good.
Okay, hold on. It says, "I have learned the secret of being content, if any, and in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through him who gives me strength." And that has been that was like 2018 or 2019, like most popular verse of the Bible. I can do all things through him who gives me strength. Philippians 4:13. And I can see right here, like the Bible says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And right here it says, I can do all things through him who gives me strength, which goes to show that he was able to do all these things, whether enjoy and be okay and being content and all these things, because of the joy. Because the Bible says he is my joy. Therefore, he had strength to go through all these things. Yeah. And I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really amazing because, like, if you really look at his life, the fact that he's in jail, writing letters, giving people hope doesn't make any sense. Because how do you give people hope when we're supposed to give inmates hope? We're supposed to give people hope who their life are being taken from them, or, you know, like he's under threat of death, essentially, you know, and yet despite that, he's literally offering hope to other people. I think that contentment that we have, and that goes back to what we said earlier about how joy, there's so many attributes that come with having joy in your life, you know, which is you're content, you're loving, there's peace, you know, there's happiness. All those things are wrapped up in what joy is, you know. Yeah. And it's like he didn't even have to say that he was joyful, but the joy is literally there, you know, because that's what that contentment really is, you know. Yeah,
it's really good. Like, I'm sure he wasn't all giggly and telling jokes while he was there, like, the whole time, you know, like, because I think if we try to define joy as happiness or just happiness or whatever, I'm sure he wasn't happy all the time. Yeah. That's scary. Exactly. Through that situation, but he was giving hope to all these people that were free. I feel like he was more free than these people that were actually not in chains. Like, he was more free than they were. Yeah. And I think he actually says that he's like more free than them, because he's not bound to anything, because he's not clinging on to anything to give him that happiness. Yeah. The joy is within him. Yeah. That's what joy is, inside of you, and happiness is just like it's like in the surface. Exactly. On the surface.
Yeah, it's like joy is literally inside of you, and yes, you're going to experience happy moments, but you're not waiting for those happy moments to feel something, you know. You're not waiting for those happy moments to feel contentment. It's always there, and then you get to enjoy every moment that happens, whether it be happiness. You can even enjoy sadness sometimes, you know. You could even enjoy, like, the heartbreak, like, depending on, it's a weird outlook to look at, but when you realize how content you are in those situations, he's enjoying his life despite what is going on. And he's real about his life. He's real about it. it's not like he's oblivious and he's just, oh yeah, I'm in jail, but I have Jesus. This is all great. No, like there's times where he's hurting. There's times when he's happy. There's times when he does feel some kind of way. Like he doesn't always feel. He doesn't always feel like he wants to preach and just do this stuff. But despite all those feelings, because he has that joy, he's content through all of it.
Mm-hmm. I think he's a great example.
Yeah, he is a great example. Also, like David too. Just those people who just, despite going through everything, just still having the assurance that because they have God, they can do all things through Christ.
Yeah.
It's really amazing, and I think that's something that we can really learn from, which is having an assurance. And that's what, I don't know if I said the Rick Warren definition, but Rick Warren said, joy is a settled assurance that God is in control of all the details of my life, the quiet confidence that ultimately everything is going to be all right, and the determined choice to praise God in every situation. And I thought that was just a really dope definition of what joy is, because it kind of, obviously, it brings everything back to God, The joy of the Lord is our strength, but when you really have joy, it's the confidence that God has everything. And even those moments when you want to stress out, or we're kind of freaking out, or things aren't going the way we want it to happen, we still have that assurance that we didn't get here by ourselves. God has brought us this far, so why would he stop? Why would God bless us and then just stop? Why would he cut us off? And he doesn't. And I think the fact that if you read the Bible, God never cut off anybody, really. Even the people he cut off, he still did something for them. Even Cain killed Abel, and this dude cut off Cain, but he put a mark on him so that nobody can touch him. It's like God is so mindful of us that regardless of what we go through, he's not just going to completely just kill us off. A lot of times we unknowingly walk away from him. He's still right there, but we're ignoring him. He's still right there, but we're searching for everything else besides him because we feel like he's not enough. And
Yeah.
and I think it might be in Malachi, but in one of the older Old Testament books, God says, "What have I done so wrong to you guys to where you guys continue to turn your backs from me?" And I always thought that was really interesting, because God wants to be our joy. He wants to give us strength. He wants to help us. He wants to give us these moments of happiness and these moments of bliss. But rather than going through him to receive it, we go our own direction and we pick up our own vices and we do our own thing because we feel like he's not enough, But at the end of the day, God really hasn't done anything to us. We blame God for stuff. We blame God if someone dies. We blame God if an accident happens. We blame God for all these different things. But in reality, God literally wants to be our strength. And if you allow God to be your strength, when an accident does happen, you'll find that you still have joy because God is right there empowering you.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
Okay, so we keep saying all this stuff about joy. How does joy relate to being selfish?
How does joy relate to being selfish, Jeremiah?
Mm-hmm. I'm asking you.
I'm asking you.
I'm
back.
like the host today because you're giving all the good answers.
No, we both are. I think we have a lot to say about that. I think that it relates to being selfish because when you really have joy, when you learn to be content, so much of you and so much of the chaos, I think, is put at peace. And that peace, that inner peace, I think has so much to do with loving yourself.
Yeah.
Finally accepting this peace, accepting that joy, because you want to just, I think, put an end to whatever chaos you have going on.
Yeah, that's deep. Yeah, I didn't even think about that because I wrote the question up. I didn't think about that. When you have joy and contentment, it's going to cause you to love who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also going to cause you to love other people. You're not going to hate on others for what they have, and you're not going to hate yourself for what you don't have. So having joy internally is definitely going to affect the way you view yourself, the way you treat yourself, the way you view others, the way you treat them. And it's also just I think it's going to empower you as well, because that confidence, like I said, that confidence of being able to lean on to God, leaning on to him for what you need. You're not going to look at your mistakes as these horrible things that's going to just screw up your path going forward. You're going to look at your mistakes and still be able to have contentment and smile through it. You'll be able to smile and have joy through everything that you go through whether you make it, whether you put yourself in a situation or someone else does. That's not going to go away. And since that joy is not going to go away, you're not going to be bitter about what you did or about what anybody else did in your life,
Mm-hmm. Finding contentment in who you are.
Yeah.
That brings so much joy.
Yeah. And that's literally selfless.
Yes, it is.
Because and you have to love who you are completely.
Yes, because think about it. How can you truly have peace and joy and love and if you don't love who you are, if you're constantly, it goes back to constantly comparing yourself to others. Yeah. I think that is like comparing yourself is literally it steals like all your joy.
Yeah.
Comparing your life, comparing the way you look for all the girls or even guys, You'll never look like this person because you're not that person.
Yeah.
You'll never have that person's personality because that's not who you are. So that will literally kill you. Like it'll drive you to be depressed because you're constantly comparing yourself. Yeah. And so finding contentment in who you are and learning to appreciate and loving who you are.
Exactly.
Is such a joy.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally what joy is.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really, hopefully, and I think that should be the biggest takeaway from this entire podcast, is literally not searching for happiness to love yourself or to love someone else, but literally having that revelation of like being content with who you are and loving you for who you are, regardless of anything,
Mm-hmm. And something that I was thinking about and I was like, wow, how cool. So after I felt like, because I'm sure that whatever we're saying, you can go and find other stuff like somewhere else that's like about pretty much about what we're talking about, like joy versus happiness or whatever. Mm-hmm. But honestly, like I can honestly tell you guys that I had never looked up on like looked anywhere or searched for like anyone talking about this because I never realized it was a thing. To me, joy meant happiness. Happiness meant joy. To me, I really thought it was the same thing. And it wasn't until we were having a conversation that I really feel like it was just like, it just like dropped in my head. I was like, wait, the Bible never talks about happiness. Yeah. It's joy. I was like, whoa, okay, wait, what? Are they different things? And we both were like, wait, we both kind of just like connected things. It was so cool how it happened. And so now it's like looking for all those people like that read your Bible and stuff like that and like to do Bible studies or whatever and devotionals. There are so many things like whenever you guys search like on the Bible app, and then there's a lot of things like about joy and it'll like topics and stuff like that. Joy was one of the ones that I would never click on ever. I never cared to look on the ones that, the whatever they had to say about joy, because I didn't realize that because to me joy was happiness, and I was like, I don't know, it was not that deep to me. Yeah. But it's like it is so deep. The whole Bible talks about joy, and because there's such a treasure and so much depth in that, and I didn't realize it. So for all those who read your Bible, now I'm like, especially for me now that I know the difference and how much depth there is into this and how much treasure there is in this, that's how I feel like I found this new treasure. I'm gonna look in the Bible and read these chapters or words about joy and see them in a whole new light and really apply them, because now I really understand what God is referring to as when he talks about joy. It's not happiness. It's so much deeper than that. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I'm so glad that you've been able to really see that too. Because I mean, we actually talked about this topic 3 weeks ago, huh? I think so. Yeah. But yeah, we really hope you guys got something out of it. Do you have anything else to say before we end?
No, I just really, really hope that whoever watches it, really gets blessed by it.
Me too. Stay joyful and stay selfish.
You don't have anything else to say, babe?
No. I think I'm pretty much. I think we had a really good conversation.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was short or long. It may have been short.
It was good. Short but sweet.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Stay tuned for all of our sales, you guys. Like my husband said, we're going to have our back to school flash sale. The hands. So just keep an eye out for our commercials.
And if you have any topics that you want us to talk about or you're curious about, send us a DM.
Yeah, send us a DM. Tell us what you think. And tell us what you want us to look up or talk about.
Send a DM to my BM.
See you guys later.
Okay. See you later. Peace out, Selflish.